Captain Maya Thompson stared at her reflection in the polished surface of the Galactic Council chamber's entrance door. Her perfectly pressed diplomatic uniform made her look professional, but nothing could hide the dark circles under her eyes or the permanent crease between her eyebrows that had developed since taking this assignment. "Another day of being humanity's punching bag," she muttered, straightening her collar. "Let's see how many times I get patted on the head today." The door slid open with a soft hiss, and Maya entered what she privately called the circus. The massive council chamber was designed to accommodate representatives from over 300 galactic species, which meant it was a sensory overload of colored lighting zones, specialized atmospheric bubbles, and temperature-controlled seating arrangements. "Ah, Captain Thompson." The booming voice of Ambassador Grolok, a 10-foot-tall mass of purple tentacles and glowing spots, waved what might have been an arm in her direction. "Did you find your way here all by yourself? What a clever little human." Maya forced her face into what she hoped resembled a diplomatic smile rather than a grimace of barely contained rage. "Yes, Ambassador. After 3 years stationed here, I've somehow managed to memorize the route from my quarters." Sarcasm, Maya had discovered, was completely lost on most alien species. Grolok's upper spots glowed with what she recognized as approval. "Remarkable. Your species continues to surprise us with your adaptability." Maya walked to the human section, a pathetically small area compared to the sprawling zones occupied by the founding council races. Earth had been granted observer status just 5 years ago, after humans had finally developed faster-than-light travel and promptly blundered into an ongoing territorial dispute between two major powers. It was only through sheer dumb luck and the unexpected value of Earth's coffee beans to several influential species that humans had been granted provisional membership, rather than being immediately quarantined as a potentially disruptive species. "Captain Thompson." A shrill voice called from behind as Maya took her seat. She turned to see Protocol Officer Zenat approaching, a tall, stick-like alien whose species communicated through a combination of speech and color changes in their translucent skin. Currently, Zenat was flashing a patronizing shade of blue-green. "I've been instructed to remind you about proper decorum during today's trade dispute resolution. The Vraxian Empire representatives found your behavior at the last session to be, how did they phrase it? Alarmingly direct." Maya bit the inside of her cheek. The alarming directness had been her pointing out that the Vraxians' proposed shipping route would cut directly through Earth's solar system without any safety protocols. "Heaven forbid we alarm anyone by suggesting they shouldn't fly planet-killing weapons through our backyard," she replied. "Exactly." Zenat's skin flashed an oblivious yellow. "I'm pleased you understand. The Vraxians are a founding member race with over 3,000 years of council membership. Earth has been space-capable for, what, barely a century? There's a natural order to these proceedings." As Zenat walked away, Maya pulled out her datapad and scrolled through the day's agenda. 17 items, and Earth's concerns about the Vraxian shipping route had been moved from position 3 to position 16 right before miscellaneous maintenance announcements. Of course, she sighed. The Council Arbiter, a gelatinous cube suspended in an anti-gravity field at the center of the chamber, began the day's proceedings with a series of melodic tones that the translation system rendered as a welcoming speech. Maya settled in for another day of being ignored, interrupted, and condescended to by species that considered humans to be somewhere between amusing pets and irritating children. Her datapad pinged with a message from Admiral Fletcher back on Earth. "Any progress on the shipping route issue?" Maya typed back quickly, "We've been demoted to item 16 on today's agenda." Right after the debate on standardized waste management, and right before they discussed changing the light bulbs in the East Corridor. Fletcher's response was immediate: "Keep pushing. Intelligence suggests Vraxian activity increasing near Jupiter outpost. Something's off." Maya frowned. The Vraxians had always been dismissive of humans, but lately their behavior had shifted from condescension to something that felt more like calculated indifference. It was as if they were deliberately avoiding engagement with Earth's representatives. As if on cue, the Vraxian delegation entered the chamber. Unlike most council species who embraced the theatrical nature of interstellar politics with elaborate dress and presentation, The Vraxians were remarkably understated. Humanoid in general shape, with gray-blue skin and no visible hair, they wore simple black uniforms with minimal markings of rank. Their only distinctive feature was their eyes, completely black except for a thin ring of silver that seemed to catch and reflect light in unsettling ways. The lead Vraxian diplomat, Ambassador Coral, nodded briefly in Maya's direction. There was something in that nod, a certain smugness, a certain knowledge that made the hair on the back of her neck stand up. Maya had been a diplomat long enough to know when something bad was about to happen. She just hadn't realized how bad it would be. Maya was arguing with a Pelnorian representative about Earth's proposal for emergency communication protocols when her datapad began blaring a sound she had never heard before, a high-pitched, but pulsing alarm that immediately silenced all conversations around her. The screen flashed red with a single message: Luna colony attack, orphanage sector, estimate 200 casualties, unknown aggressor. No, Maya whispered, gripping the datapad so hard her knuckles went white. No, no, no. Luna Colony was Earth's pride and joy, the first permanent settlement beyond Earth, home to nearly 10,000 colonists. And the Artemis Armstrong Orphanage was its heart, a state-of-the-art facility that cared for children orphaned during the early, dangerous days of space exploration. The chamber doors burst open as Commander Doug Wilson, Earth's military attaché, strode in. His normally relaxed demeanor was gone, replaced by a rigid professionalism that Maya found more terrifying than the alarm. "Captain Thompson," he said, his voice carefully controlled. "We need to convene an emergency session immediately." The Council arbiter pulsed an annoyed orange. "Earth's representative must follow proper emergency protocols. File the requisite." "Luna Colony has been attacked," Maya interrupted, her voice cutting through the chamber. 200 children are dead. I am invoking Article 7 of the Membership Charter and demanding an immediate emergency session." A murmur ran through the chamber as delegates turned to their information systems. The Vraxian delegation remained perfectly still, their silver-ringed eyes fixed on Maya. "I have confirmation," announced the Pelnorian representative, their voice trembling slightly. "Luna Colony's Artemis Armstrong Orphanage has been destroyed, and completely. Orbital footage shows a precision strike consistent with Vraxian military technology." All eyes turned to Ambassador Coral, who stood with perfect posture, apparently untroubled by the accusation. "The Vraxian Empire acknowledges this action," Coral said, his voice cool and measured. "A strategic demonstration was deemed necessary to underline our position regarding the disputed shipping lanes. The facility was chosen for its symbolic value while minimizing impact on Earth's military capabilities." The chamber exploded in shocked exclamations and hurried consultations. Maya stood frozen, unable to process the casual admission of what amounted to a war crime by Earth standards. "You deliberately targeted children?" she finally managed to say. Coral tilted his head slightly. "We targeted a highly visible, non-military installation to demonstrate our resolve without provoking a full military response. The occupant's status as offspring is irrelevant. The Vraxian Empire has made its position clear. The shipping lanes will remain as designated by historical precedent." Maya felt a hand on her arm and turned to see a small, green-skinned alien with 4 eyes blinking at her in what appeared to be sympathy. "Captain Thompson," the alien said quietly. "I'm Krill, junior aide to the Proxima delegation. I shouldn't be speaking to you directly, but this is wrong. Many of us think so." Before Maya could respond, her datapad buzzed with an incoming transmission: Admiral Fletcher, requesting an immediate video conference. She stepped into a side chamber, engaging the privacy field before accepting the call. Fletcher's face appeared, grim and aged, 10 years since she'd last seen him. "Maya," he said, dispensing with formalities, "I'm about to address the Council. I need to know, what's the temperature in the room?" Shock, outrage, but already I can see them moving toward bureaucratic solutions. Investigation committees, fact-finding missions. She ran a hand through her hair. "Sir," the Vraxians admitted it, openly, called it a strategic demonstration. They bombed children to make a point about shipping routes. Fletcher's jaw tightened. Then it's as we feared. They're testing our response. Ants. Sir, what exactly is our response going to be? The Council will want to mediate, investigate, create a committee to. Maya, Fletcher interrupted, his voice deadly calm. There will be no committees. No investigations. No mediation. What happened today changes everything. When Maya returned to the chamber, the Council was already deep in procedural arguments about the proper classification of the incident. The Vraxian delegation sat calmly, occasionally offering clarifications about their demonstration. A small blue alien was speaking. While regrettable, we must consider the complex historical context of territorial claims in this sector. I propose a 15-member investigative committee with a 6-month mandate to. Earth's representative Admiral Fletcher requests immediate speaking privileges, Maya announced, cutting through the bureaucratic chatter. The large display at the front of the chamber activated, showing Admiral Fletcher in full military dress. Even through the screen, his presence commanded immediate attention. This is not a negotiation, Fletcher began without preamble. This is not a request for mediation or investigation. 234 children were murdered today in an act of deliberate aggression against Earth. I am here to inform the Galactic Council that as of this moment, Earth and the Vraxian Empire are in a state of total war. The silence that followed Fletcher's declaration was absolute. Even the usually chatty translation system seemed stunned into silence. I believe there's been a mistranslation, the Council Arbiter finally said. Your species' language module may need calibration. Total war is translating as a comprehensive commitment of all resources and population toward military conflict, which would be a disproportionate response to a strategic demonstration. The translation is accurate, Fletcher replied. Perhaps what you need is a cultural context module. On Earth, we have certain lines that cannot be crossed. Targeting children crosses all of them. Ambassador Coral stood, silver-ringed eyes narrowing slightly, the most emotion Maya had ever seen from a Vraxian. Admiral Fletcher, your species' emotional response is noted but unnecessary. The demonstration achieved its purpose with precision. No further action against your colonies is planned, provided Earth respects established shipping rights. Fletcher's laugh was cold enough to freeze nitrogen. Ambassador, let me be very clear about something. Humans have been fighting wars against each other for our entire history. We've gotten very, very good at it. The only reason we haven't shown that side of ourselves to the galactic community is because we were trying to play nice. He leaned forward, and Maya could swear every species in the room instinctively leaned back. You just bombed an orphanage. Playing nice is officially over. The Pelnorian representative raised a tentative appendage. Admiral, surely diplomatic solutions remain possible. The Council can establish reparations, negotiate. 234 children, Fletcher repeated. Each one had a name. Each one had a future. Each one is now a reason why the Vraxian Empire will understand exactly what humanity is capable of when provoked. Maya watched the faces of the alien delegates as confusion turned to concern. They genuinely didn't understand. In their cultures, strategic demonstrations were normal, accepted parts of interstellar politics. The idea that targeting non-combatants, even juvenile ones, would trigger such an extreme response simply didn't compute. Commander Wilson stepped forward beside Maya. Gone was his usual slouch and casual demeanor. He stood ramrod straight, eyes fixed on the Vraxian delegation. For the benefit of the Council, Wilson said, his voice carrying effortlessly through the chamber, I'd like to provide some context for Admiral Fletcher's declaration. In Earth's history, there have been numerous instances where attacking civilian targets, particularly children, resulted in the complete mobilization of our society toward a single goal, the defeat of those responsible. He tapped a command into his datapad, and historical images appeared on screens around the chamber. Earth cities in ruins, monuments to fallen children, massive military mobilizations from various periods in human history. What you are seeing is what happens when humans stop thinking in terms of politics, economics, or diplomacy and start thinking solely in terms of justice. You've studied our technology, our resources, our military capabilities, but you've completely failed to understand our psychology. Krill, the junior aide who had approached Maya earlier, edged closer. Is this truly happening? The four-eyed alien whispered. Your people are committing to full military engagement over a single incident? Maya looked down at Krill. It wasn't an incident. It was a massacre of children who had already lost everything once. And yes, this is happening. On the main screen, Fletcher continued what would later become known throughout the galaxy as the orphanage speech. The Vraxian Empire has made a critical miscalculation, he said. You believed targeting children would demonstrate your resolve while preventing military escalation. Instead, you have united every human in the solar system in a way nothing else could have. As of this moment, every resource Earth possesses is being directed toward a single purpose. He paused, and Maya could see the genuine confusion on the faces of most council representatives. They still didn't get it. We're not interested in strategic demonstrations, Fletcher concluded. We're not interested in limited engagements or political maneuvering. The Vraxian Empire wanted to send a message received. And here's our reply. You will regret the day you ever heard the word human. The transmission cut, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. They think we're bluffing, Commander Wilson said, unwrapping a protein bar as he reviewed tactical displays in Earth's small council station office. It had been 12 hours since Fletcher's declaration, and the Galactic Council had been in continuous emergency session, trying desperately to de-escalate the unfortunate situation. Maya rubbed her temples. They don't understand the concept of total war. Their conflicts have been ritualized and regulated for millennia. The idea of an entire species mobilizing for unrestricted warfare is completely foreign to them. Which gives us a hell of an advantage, Wilson noted, his casual tone belied by the intensity with which he studied the displays. Fleet deployments are already underway. Operation Kindergarten Teacher is in motion. Krill, who had somewhat officially become their liaison to the various concerned council factions, looked up from a datapad. This name Operation Kindergarten Teacher, it has cultural significance. The small alien asked. Wilson's smile was not pleasant. On Earth, kindergarten teachers are responsible for very young children. They're generally patient, kind, and nurturing. But if you harm one of their kids, he made a slicing motion across his throat. I'm getting pressure from 17 different species to meet with their representatives, Maya said. They want to offer mediation, technical support for investigations, cultural exchange programs to foster better understanding. Anything to stop this from happening. Let them talk, Wilson replied, pulling up a holographic display of Vraxian fleet positions. Every hour they spend trying to negotiate is another hour we have to get our pieces in place. Speaking of which. He was interrupted by a priority alert from Maya's diplomatic channel. The Galactic President is requesting your immediate presence in the High Chamber, she read aloud, then looked up with a raised eyebrow. Apparently this situation has been escalated all the way to the top. Wilson snorted. Go, keep them talking. I'll coordinate with Fletcher. The High Chamber was reserved for only the most critical galactic matters, and Maya had never seen it used in her 3 years at the station. It was a surprisingly austere room compared to the theatrical main council chamber, a simple circular space with a single large table. Seated at the head was President Thox, a massive entity whose species resembled something like an upright elephant with 6 eyes arranged in a circle around what might charitably be called a face. As the elected head of the Galactic Council, Thox was theoretically the most powerful individual in known space. Captain Thompson, Thox rumbled through a translator. Please be seated. We must discuss your species' disproportionate reaction to a standard political demonstration. Maya took the offered seat but didn't bother hiding her anger. Mr. President, there was nothing standard about bombing an orphanage. Thox's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. I understand your species has unusual attachments to your offspring. However, the proportionality principle that has maintained galactic peace for 3,000 years cannot be abandoned for emotional reasons. Mr. President, Maya said carefully, I don't think you understand what's happening. Earth isn't filing a complaint. We're not asking for council action. We are informing you as a courtesy that the Vraxian Empire has committed an act of war against humanity, and we are responding accordingly. This is precisely the problem, Thox insisted. Interstellar disagreements must be resolved through established channels. The alternative is chaos. Surely your species doesn't wish to be remembered as the ones who broke 3 millennia of relative peace? Maya leaned forward. What my species wishes is that 234 children were still alive. Since that can't happen, we'll settle for making sure no one ever targets human children again. While Maya kept the galactic president occupied with diplomatic double-talk, Wilson and Krill were coordinating what would become the most rapid military mobilization in Earth's history. Your fleet movements make no sense, Krill said, 4 eyes blinking in confusion as they studied the deployment patterns. You're dispersing forces rather than concentrating them for maximum impact. Wilson took a bite of his third protein bar of the day. That's because you're thinking like everyone else in the galaxy in terms of set-piece engagements and force-on-force confrontations. He pulled up a different display showing Vraxian supply chains, communication nodes, and civilian infrastructure. Operation Kindergarten Teacher isn't about destroying their military, he explained. It's about making the cost of this war so high that no species ever considers targeting humans again. Krill's green skin paled slightly. You're targeting civilian infrastructure? We're targeting everything except civilian populations, Wilson corrected. There's a difference. We're not murderers. But by the time we're done, the average Vraxian is going to feel this war in every aspect of their daily life until their leadership understands exactly how badly they miscalculated. When Maya returned from her meeting with President Thox, she found Wilson surrounded by holographic displays showing Earth ships moving into position throughout the sector. How did it go with the big boss? Wilson asked without looking up. He threatened to revoke Earth's council membership if we proceed, Maya replied, pouring herself a much-needed coffee. I told him that under the circumstances we consider that an acceptable cost. Wilson let out a low whistle. Bet that went over well. He started changing colors I didn't know his species could produce. Maya sipped her coffee. They really don't get it, do they? Any of them? They think this is some kind of negotiating tactic. They're about to get a very expensive education, Wilson replied, checking the time. T-2 hours until Phase 1 begins. Admiral Fletcher wants you on a secure channel when it happens. Why? Me. Wilson's usual easy smile returned for the first time since the attack. Because someone needs to explain to the Council exactly what they're seeing, and you've always been good with words. The Galactic Council emergency session had been running continuously for nearly 24 hours when Maya's datapad silently alerted her that Operation Kindergarten Teacher had commenced. She excused herself from a pointless procedural debate and made her way to a viewing platform overlooking the vast starfield outside the station. Exactly 60 seconds later, her datapad projected a real-time strategic feed of the operation, courtesy of Commander Wilson. What she saw made her breath catch. Earth had deployed not one massive fleet but hundreds of smaller task forces. They weren't targeting Vraxian military installations or fleets. Instead, they were simultaneously hitting comm relays, trading posts, custom stations, and supply depots across 57 systems. Her datapad pinged with a message from Wilson. Pretty, isn't it? Before she could respond, the chamber doors burst open, and a dozen different species rushed in, datapad displays blinking with urgent alerts. What is happening? Demanded Ambassador Grolok, tentacles writhing in agitation. Half the sector's communication grid just went dark. Humanity's response has begun, Maya said simply. The Vraxian ambassador Coral strode directly to Maya, silver-ringed eyes now wide with something that might have been actual emotion. This is not an acceptable form of warfare, Coral stated. Your forces are targeting civilian infrastructure across neutral systems. The Council will not. The time for council deliberations ended when you bombed our orphanage, Maya interrupted. As we speak, every Vraxian military vessel is being tracked by multiple human ships. They aren't being engaged yet. That's Phase 2. The large display at the front of the chamber lit up with a strategic view of the sector. Red indicators showed Vraxian positions. Blue indicators showed Earth forces. The blue vastly outnumbered the red. Impossible, Coral whispered. Your species doesn't have this capacity. Actually, we do, Maya replied. We just never had a reason to show it until now. Your intelligence on Earth's military capabilities was based on what we chose to display publicly. That was a mistake on your part. The council arbiter pulsed an urgent purple. All delegates will return to the main chamber immediately. This situation requires emergency protocols. As the chamber filled with panicked representatives from across the galaxy, Commander Wilson casually strolled in and took a seat next to Maya. He was eating a sandwich. Nice view from here, he commented, nodding toward the strategic display where more and more Vraxian positions were going dark. Phase 1 proceeding ahead of schedule. The Galactic President's voice boomed through the chamber. Earth representatives will explain these unprovoked attacks immediately. Wilson took another bite of his sandwich before responding. Unprovoked? That's an interesting interpretation of an orphanage being bombed. These actions violate every principle of proportional response, Thox insisted. That's the thing about total war, Wilson replied, brushing crumbs from his uniform. It's not meant to be proportional. It's meant to be final. He stood and approached the strategic display, pointing to various sectors where Earth forces were systematically dismantling Vraxian infrastructure. What you're seeing is just Phase 1 communication isolation. Right now, every Vraxian ship, station, and colony is being cut off from Central Command. No casualties yet, just complete strategic confusion. He tapped the display, advancing the simulation. Phase 2 begins in approximately 3 hours. Systematic neutralization of all Vraxian military assets. Not destruction, just neutralization. Engines disabled, weapons offline, life support untouched. The Vraxian ambassador stepped forward. This is a declaration of... No, bombing our orphanage was the declaration, Wilson corrected, his casual demeanor dropping for a moment. This is the response. And trust me when I tell you, Ambassador, we're being remarkably restrained. Maya watched the faces of the council members as the reality of the situation finally began to sink in. For 3,000 years they had engaged in regulated, limited conflicts with established rules and boundaries. Earth had just thrown the rulebook out the window. But how? Asked a small, insectoid delegate. Your species has been space-capable for barely a century. The resources required for this kind of operation are exactly what you get when an entire planet decides that nothing else matters except winning, Wilson finished. Every ship we have, every soldier, every resource, all focused on a single objective. That's what total war means. We don't hold back. We don't maintain reserves for diplomacy or trade or research. Everything goes toward the fight. He took another casual bite of his sandwich. It's actually pretty simple. You just have to be willing to commit completely. And if there's one thing humans do well, it's commitment when we're pissed off. 3 weeks later, Maya stood in the observation dome of the Galactic Council station, watching as the formal surrender ceremony was prepared. The Vraxian Empire, or what remained of it, had capitulated after just 18 days of conflict, the shortest major war in galactic history. I still can't quite believe it, Krill said, standing beside her. The small alien had become something of an unofficial cultural translator between humans and the rest of the council. An empire that stood for 2,000 years, defeated in less than a month. Maya shook her head. They weren't defeated, they surrendered. There's a difference. We could have kept going, but that wasn't the point. And what was the point? Krill asked, all 4 eyes blinking curiously. To make sure no one ever targets human children again, she replied simply. The ceremony itself was brief and remarkably undramatic by council standards. Ambassador Coral, now designated as the interim Vraxian representative rather than ambassador, formally acknowledged the complete surrender of all military assets and accepted the terms of the peace treaty, which included substantial reparations for the Luna Colony Orphanage attack and the establishment of a permanent human oversight presence in former Vraxian territory. "The treaty is ratified," announced the council arbiter, its gelatinous form pulsing a formal shade of blue. "The conflict is hereby officially concluded." As the chamber began to empty, President Thox approached Maya and Wilson. "Your species has fundamentally altered the balance of power in the galaxy," the massive alien stated without preamble. "The Council will need to adapt to this new reality." Wilson smiled. "That's a polite way of saying we terrified everyone." "Fear is not a sustainable foundation for diplomatic relations," Thox replied. "No," Maya agreed. "But respect is. And now we have that, don't we?" Later that day, Maya made her way to a small garden area that had been converted into a memorial for the victims of the Luna Colony attack. 234 small lights hung suspended in the air, each representing a child lost in the attack. She was surprised to find Commander Wilson already there, standing silently before the memorial. "I didn't take you for the sentimental type," she said quietly. Wilson didn't turn. "I had a sister on Luna Colony. Teacher. She wasn't at the orphanage that day, but she lost 17 of her students." Maya had worked with Wilson for 3 years and never known this. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. We made it right." He finally turned to face her. "Or as right as it can be made." "What happens now?" Maya asked. "We've showed the galaxy what humanity is capable of when provoked. Where do we go from here?" "That's more your department than mine," Wilson replied. "I break things. You build them back up." 2 months after the end of the conflict, Maya found herself in a completely renovated council chamber. Earth's section had been expanded considerably, and representatives from previously minor species now approached her regularly for consultation and alliance discussions. Ambassador Thompson called a nervous-looking Pelnorian delegate, using her new title. "Might I have a moment of your time?" Maya nodded graciously. The promotion to ambassador had come with Earth's elevated status in the council, no longer an observer, but a full voting member with considerable influence. "Ambassador," the Pelnorian continued, "I've been assigned to brief our new diplomatic corps on human cultural protocols, and I wanted to verify some information." Maya gestured for them to continue. "Is it accurate that humans consider any action against juvenile members of your species to be an automatic trigger for total military response?" Maya considered this for a moment. "That's oversimplified, but fundamentally correct. We're particularly protective of children, not just our own, but any children." The Pelnorian made a notation. "And is it true that humans do not recognize the concept of acceptable casualties in diplomatic demonstrations?" "Also correct," Maya confirmed. "We don't believe in targeting civilians to make political points." "This is very helpful," the Pelnorian said. "Our diplomatic academy is completely revising its curriculum regarding human interaction. The previous model was condescending," Maya suggested. "Catastrophically inaccurate," the Pelnorian admitted. "One final question, if I may. Our analysts still struggle to understand how your species mobilized so effectively with no apparent preparation. Was this capability deliberately concealed from the Council?" Maya smiled. "Not deliberately, no. We simply never had reason to show it before. Humans have a long history of coming together in the face of atrocity. It's not something we're proud of, necessarily the fact that we're so good at war, but it's something everyone should understand about us." As the Pelnorian thanked her and moved away, Maya caught sight of Krill, now promoted to full diplomatic status, leading a group of new alien representatives on what appeared to be an orientation tour. "And this section is Earth's delegation area," Krill was explaining. "When addressing human representatives, remember to maintain appropriate personal space and avoid condescending language or physical gestures that might be interpreted as patronizing. Humans value directness, honesty and respect above elaborate diplomatic protocols. Maya suppressed a smile. The same aliens who had once patted her on the head were now being carefully instructed on how to avoid offending humans. Ambassador Thompson. Krill called, noticing her. Would you mind sharing a few words with our new delegates about human diplomatic preferences? Maya approached the group, noting the mixture of caution and curiosity in their expressions. These weren't the dismissive aliens she had dealt with for years. These were representatives who had watched humanity transform from a galactic curiosity to a major power in less than a month. Welcome to the Council, she said warmly. The first thing you should know about humans is that despite recent events, we genuinely prefer peace to war. We're explorers and builders at heart. The second thing you should know is that we value all sentient life, regardless of species. And the third thing, her smile remained diplomatic but her eyes turned serious, is that we protect our own, especially those who cannot protect themselves. As the orientation continued, Maya's datapad pinged with a message from Admiral Fletcher. Luna Orphanage reconstruction complete. Memorial foundation endowed by 17 species. Funding for additional colonies approved. See what a little clarity can accomplish. Maya looked around at the transformed council chamber, at the representatives from across the galaxy who now approached Earth with respect rather than condescension, and at the strategic display showing trade routes and diplomatic missions rather than fleet movements. Clarity, she murmured to herself, and a hell of an object lesson. As if on cue, a young Vraxian diplomat, part of their new, reformist government, approached her with a formal bow. Ambassador Thompson, my government wishes to discuss participating in the Interstellar Children's Rights Accord recently proposed by Earth. Maya nodded, gesturing toward the conference area. We'd be delighted to have the Vraxian perspective included. As they walked together, the Vraxian lowered their voice. Off the record. Ambassador, the educational reforms on my homeworld have been extensive. Every school now teaches about Luna Colony. No Vraxian child will ever forget the lesson our species learned. That's not about punishment, Maya clarified. It's about understanding. Understanding what precisely? The Vraxian asked. Maya thought about the 234 lights in the memorial garden, about the orphanage rising from the lunar dust, and about the new respect humanity had earned throughout the galaxy. That some lines should never be crossed, she said simply, and that humanity will always protect its children no matter the cost.